we've been slacking on our bibliotech studies lately. We're gonna have to get back to that. We're gonna have to get back to that. It's early. I did grocery shopping today, so I could start early. If we get done with Second Kings early, maybe we'll play some Wukong. I, dude, that was so dumb. If you were watching last night, oh my gosh, it was so dumb. But for now, if you're watching the Bible study, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about if you didn't see the Wukong stream. But it was bad. So here's what happened. To beat the Yaksha King, I wore armor that gives me an attack bonus when I'm poisoned. And I have a soak that I put in my gourd so that when I drink my healing potion, I poison myself. But the soak poisons me, and then the armor reduces damage from poison, and it makes my attack stronger while I'm poisoned. So the idea is if you're wearing that armor and you use that soak, you poison yourself every time you heal, but you don't take hardly any damage from the poison, but you get a big attack bonus while you're poisoned. So you keep yourself poisoned for the whole fight so you can kill the boss quicker. But after I beat the Yaksha King, I got new armor, new gear, and I put it on. But I still had the soak on my gourd that poisons me. And I thought the enemy was poisoning me because I know he does lightning, fire, and ice attacks. But I was like, what is he doing that's poisoning me? I was just like, maybe it's these darts he's shooting. Maybe it's the unicycle thing that poisoned. I was always poisoned. So I was like, oh, he must do all the Bane effects. Turns out I still had the soak on, so I was poisoning myself. Every time I drank a health potion, I would get poisoned and I would be losing my life. And then when I would get real low on life and try to escape away to heal, I would just die because the poison ticks down your health. So I'd have low health and I'd be like, okay, I need to go heal. And I'd start rolling away to heal and I would just drop dead. And it's because I was poisoned. But I thought the enemy was poisoning me. The enemy wasn't poisoning me. I was poisoning myself every time I took a sip from the gourd. So probably could have beaten that guy, but we either have to change the soak or change the armor back. But anyway, just a little side note. All right, let's get into this. We're in Second Kings. We're going to finish Second Kings today. We've been on Second Kings for a minute. And then we get into Chronicles. And Chronicles, I think, kind of just reiterates what's up, Gorilla? I believe Chronicles just kind of goes through First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings again. Hopefully, it's not too long. Second Chronicles 35, 36. Wow, Chronicles is long. There's 36 chapters in Second Chronicles. "36 chapters in Second Chronicles. I think that's the longest book chapter-wise so far. And 28 chapters in First Chronicles. So Chronicles is going to be a nice chunk. I guess that's why they call it Chronicles. Don't poison yourself. Pro tip. Yes, facts. All right. So let's get into this. Let's start reading. Second Kings chapter 21. The wicked Wayne. The the wicked reign in Manasseh. The wicked reign in Manasseh. I need to close that door because it's hot in here. All right. Let's get into this. Chapter 21. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 50 and 5 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. For he built up again the high places. Man, we finally had somebody tear down the high places. Who was the last guy that tore down the high places finally? It was Azariah, I believe. Syrians. Hezekiah? No, Hezekiah. Yeah. Hezekiah tore down the altars, and then Hezekiah was going to die, but God gave him 3 more years to live, or 15 more years to live. But he showed off all of his fancy stuff to the Babylonians, and God said, one day the Babylonians are going to take everything you got because you were prideful. You were bragging to them about all the nice things you had and showing off all your stuff. So one day I'm going to take it all from you, Hezekiah. But on the plus side, at least Hezekiah tore down the high places. Now Manasseh's in, and Manasseh rebuilds the high places yet again. Here we go again. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal, and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. And he built, isn't it interesting? It calls the false gods, the lowercase g gods, the host of heaven. But they were, this is why I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe Baal, Molech, even Zeus, maybe they're just going by different names. Zeus, I believe these are actual, if I say deities, people are going to get triggered because a lot of people think deities just means, God, as in uppercase G God. But deities are also angels, demons. So, but it's talking about Baal, it's talking about Molech, it's talking about the heathens' gods, lowercase g gods, calling them the host of heaven. And served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, in Jerusalem will I put my name. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the 2 courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times. And that's observing times is another word for divination, basically fortune telling, crystal ball people. Nowadays, we got the crystal ball people and the tarot card readers. Those people observe the times, and that's forbidden by God. That's evil sorcery. This is why I believe in things like, I believe there is some truth. It's a twisted truth. It's a truth. It's a little bit of truth with a big lie. But there is some truth in tarot card reading, dream interpretation, lucid dreaming, all this stuff that like the New Age people and the Wiccans and all that like magic that they do. I think there is that stuff is real. It's just the dark arts. Just because something's real doesn't mean you should practice it. But anyway, observed times and used enchantments and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. And he set a graven image of the grove that he had made in the house of which in the house of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they hearkened not, and Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than did the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the children of Israel. So they're doing even worse than all the people who got wiped off earth. And that's why they're going to fall. And the Lord spake by his servants, the prophets, saying, and at this point, Jerusalem, I believe Israel is fallen at this point, and all that's left is Judah. I can't remember where we left off. Before the children of Israel. So Israel, except for Judah, has been wiped out. The southern kingdom or the northern, I get them mixed up. One's the northern kingdom, one's the southern kingdom. Judah and Israel. And the Lord spake by his servants, the prophets, saying, because Manasseh, king of Judah, Judah, hath done these I always wonder about things, and it's in the next line. Had done these abominations and have done wickedly above all that the Amorites did, which were before him, and hath made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle. And I will stretch over Jerusalem the line of Samaria, and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wipeth a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I will forsake the remnant of mine inheritance, and deliver them into the hand of their enemies, and they shall become a prey and a spoil to all their enemies, because they have done that which was evil in my sight, and have provoked me to anger, since the day their fathers came forth out of Egypt, even unto this day. Moreover, Manasseh shed innocent blood very much, till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, beside his sin, wherewith he made Judah to sin, and doing that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He shed innocent blood. Look at that. So there's a delineation between shedding guilty blood and shedding innocent blood. Murder is shedding innocent blood, unjustly. Killing is not murder. Moreover, Manasseh shed innocent blood. I already read that. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh and all that he did and his sin that he sinned, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Manasseh slept with his fathers and was buried in the garden of his own house, in the garden of Uzzah, and Amon his son reigned in his stead. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Mesolameth, the daughter of Haruz of Jotbah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his father Manasseh did. And he walked in all the way that his father walked in, and served the idols that his father served, and worshipped them. And he forsook the Lord God the Lord God of his fathers, and walked not in the way of the Lord. And the servants of Amon, I'm going to say Amon. I think it's Amon, not Ammon. The servants of Amon conspired against him, and slew the king in his own house. And the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Amon. And the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. Now the rest of the acts of Amon which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And he was buried in his sepulchre in the garden of Uzzah, and Josiah his son reigned in his stead. Chapter 22. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign. 8 years old. Probably more of a man than most of the men today. Eight years old. And he reigned 30 and 1 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jedidah, not Jedediah, Jedidah, the daughter of Adiah of Boskath. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Finally, we got a good one again. And walked in all the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And it came to turn not aside to the right hand or the left, but did what was right in the eyes of his father. No comment. No comment, but I'm thinking something. And it came to pass in the 18th year of King Josiah that the king sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, the son of Meshullam, the scribe, to the house of the Lord, saying, Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may sum the silver which is brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the door hath gathered of the people, and let them deliver it into the hand of the doers of the work that have oversight of the house of the Lord. And let them give it to the doers of the work which is in the house of the Lord, to repair the breaches of the house, unto carpenters and builders and masons, and to buy timber and hewn stone to repair the house. Howbeit there was no reckoning made with them of the money that was delivered into their hand, because they dealt faithfully. And Hilkiah the high priest said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king, and brought the king word again, and said, Thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of them that do the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord. So they're allocating the funds in the temple to pay the workers and who are rebuilding the temple. And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath delivered me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Achbor the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah the servant of the king, saying, Go ye, inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam, and Achbor, and Shaphan, and Asahiah went unto Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, the son of Tikvah, the son of Harhash, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they communed with her. A woman in a college? It's not that kind of college, guys. And they communed with her. And she said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Tell the man that sent you to me, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the words of the book which the king of Judah hath read, because they have forsaken me and have burned incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be kindled against this place, and shall not be quenched. But to the king of Judah, which sent you to inquire of the Lord, thus shall ye say to him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, as touching the words which thou hast heard. Because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Lord, when thou heardest what I spake against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and hast rent thy clothes, and wept before me. I also have heard thee, saith the Lord. Behold, therefore, I will gather thee unto thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered into thy grave in peace. And thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring upon this place. And they brought the king word again. So they're going to die before he they're gonna die in peace before before God wreaks some havoc. Wreaks havoc. I like that. I like that expression. Wreaks havoc. He's gonna smote in them. They're gonna be smited, smited, smotened, did. Chapter 23. And the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and of Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Lord. Is this Josiah? No, this is okay. Josiah's next. Josiah's on deck. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and all their soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant. So when the king declares that he's going to follow God in his right way, along with nothing else, the people follow the leader. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and for all the hosts of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. And he put down the idols, and he put down the idolatrous priests, whom the king of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem. Them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the hosts of heaven. And he brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the grove, dream catchers. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geva to Beersheba, and brake down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brethren. These priests are still disobeying God. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, and no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. No more child sacrifices. And he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun, S-U-N, at the entering in of the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire. And the altars that were on top of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king beat down and break them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had builded for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. And he brake in pieces the images, and cut down the groves, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, and the high place which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, both that altar and the high place he brake down, and burned the high place, and stamped it small into powder, and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres and burned them upon the altar, and polluted it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed. Who proclaimed these words? Then he said, What little is that? What title is that I see? And the men of the city told him, It is the sepulchre of the man of God, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that thou hast done against the altar of Bethel. I think they're talking about Isaiah or maybe Elijah. And he said, Let him alone. Let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. Samaria. Which prophet came out of Judah and which one came out of Samaria? I think they're talking about Elijah and Isaiah. I don't know if Isaiah's dead yet, though. Did it say Isaiah died? Could be Elijah and Elisha. Which prophet came out of Judah? Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Amos. Okay. So we haven't got to Jeremiah and Amos yet. So they're talking about Isaiah there. And then which prophet came out of Samaria? I believe that is Elijah. Oded is identified as coming from Samaria in the Bible. He's mentioned in Second Chronicles, where he confronts the army of Northern Kingdom battle. Additionally, the term prophet from Samaria in 2 Kings 23:18 refers to the prophet from 1 Kings 13 who prophesied against the altar at Bethel. Oh, is he unnamed? He must be unnamed. So they left his bones alone. The king of Samaria simply dedicates the old prophet who deceived the Judean man of God as a citizen of the northern kingdom, which was called Samaria after its capital. Okay, so he's unnamed. Command of the prophet that came out of Samaria with the bones of the prophet. Benson commentary says, It is pertinently observed by Joe Wolfus that if pious persons in those days had had the same opinion about relics, which has now long been prevalent in the Church of Rome, the king would not have ordered his bones to remain quiet and undisturbed, but would have put them into golden boxes and carried them to Jerusalem, and be there regarded with religious, if not idolatrous, veneration by the people. He said, Let no man move his bones. If pious persons in those days had had the same opinion about relics, which has long been prevalent in the Church of Rome, the king would have not had ordered his bones remain quiet and undisturbed, but would have put them in golden boxes and carried them to Jerusalem. By Church of Rome, does he mean the Roman Catholic Church? So wait, is that a... So this guy, Joe Wolfius, I think that's John Wolfe. Not John Wolfe from Pocahontas' husband, Rebecca's husband, but we read about we read some stuff about him when we were reading Isaiah. He's a he's a Christian, he's a theologian, but he's saying the way we do things in modern times, where we like worship all these relics and we put them into gold boxes and we that's like idolatrous. That's interesting. But they said don't even touch his bones. It's actually in Exodus, it says only the priest can touch a dead body. It talks about let the dead bury the dead. There weren't these big funeral processions like we see today. It was more, this is unclean. Don't touch it. They're gone. That's a dead body now. Their spirit, their soul, whatever you want to call it, is not in there anymore. It's alive somewhere, but that is a dead body. They were very careful with dead bodies because they were unclean. Now that could just be maybe due to diseases and things that they didn't have, hand sanitizer back then. But I think it's more of a it's less of a they were not afraid of it's not because they were afraid of bacteria. They didn't know what bacteria was. It's because it was unholy to, have like an open casket funeral was not a thing back in these days. The word in the original indicates a short stone pillar, which was set up either as a waymark, blah, 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 blah. Jameson Fawcett Brown, Bible commentary. Anyway, where were we? Where were we? Unto thy fathers gathered grave in peace, and thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring unto this place. And they brought the king word again. Where does it talk about chambers, chariots of the sun? To the king defile, he break into pieces. Where was I? Let him alone. Okay, let no man move his bones. Came out of Samaria. Okay, verse 19. And all the houses. Hold on 1 second. Man, oh man. What up, Chris Terry? Chris Terry, we need to have a debate, a formal debate. Not right now. I'm not doing any calls right now. I was trying to see if you were an honest man with a taste of integrity. Whatever, dude. Whatever, dude. Oh, also, I looked at Exodus 28, like you said, and I remembered what you were wanting me to see, where it says, your people will be taken to a strange land and made slaves there. Yeah, dumb argument, but I get it. I get what you're trying to say. It's just dumb. If you ever want to do a formal debate, we could do a three-way debate. Hebrew Israelite versus a Pharaoh versus a Christian. I know a guy who thinks that you're totally wrong. He's Kemet. He's what's it called? He's a Kemet. There's a movement, and it's something of Kemet, and he believes all of the Bible is plagiarized from Egyptian stuff. And I told him, I said, I talked to a Hebrew Israelite and you two would agree on a lot. And he's like, no, we wouldn't. He's just trying to take the book that you guys plagiarized off us, and he's just trying to plagiarize it to make it work for him. He thinks you and I are both wrong because we're both going off of the Bible. So I think it would be a good three-way debate: a Christian versus a Pharaoh versus a Hebrew Israelite. That would be pretty. Let the greatest theologian win. Let the greatest apologetics win. And that will be me. Because not only do I know all of your points better than you do, not only do I know all of his points better than he does, but I know all of my points better than both of you do. And I'm a better orator, and I'm a better debater, and I'm more entertaining, and I'm more persuasive, and I'm more humble. You acted like you don't know your people. Go back to Europe calling yourself American, but you continue calling me African. I call you, I'm doing an internal critique. You think you're African. I think you're American. Just like I'm American. But if you want to be considered African, then I'll call you African, and then I'll show you why that doesn't make any sense. Okay. And all the houses also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem. And the king commanded all the people, saying, Keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant. Surely there was not holden such a Passover from the days of the judges that judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, wherein this Passover was holden to the Lord in Jerusalem. So he held the biggest Passover feast celebration, the biggest Pascha, anyone had ever seen since the days of Moses. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits and the wizards and the images and the idols and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. And like unto him was there no king before him that turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses, neither after him arose there any like him, based all his heart, all his soul, and all his might. Josiah is based. Notwithstanding, the Lord turned not from the fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations that Manasseh had provoked him withal. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up against the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and the king Josiah went against him, and he slew him at Megiddo when he had seen him. Freddie would not like that verse. Freddie would have a big problem with that. Freddie'd be like, nah, that didn't happen. What? That didn't happen. Oh yeah, I watched Kanye on JLP. We should react to that. Maybe we'll do it after this, because it's still gonna be early when I finish. I only have 2 chapters left for today. We're just gonna get to the end of 2 Kings. But I think I'll play after this. I'll play Yay at JLP's church. It's pretty good. Nobody else would talk to Ye the way that JLP does. Nobody else would have the balls to say what JLP says to him. Most people won't have the balls to say it to anybody, to say you need to forgive your mother because she made you angry, and you need to let go of your anger because an angry person is a murderer. You can't trust an angry person. They'll justify it. They'll say, no, I love my mama. And they'll say, Jesus got angry. God gets angry. I'm going to get angry. And everybody wants to be angry. They just want to hold on to their anger. They love their hell. You can't tell them nothing. Chris, have you forgiven your mother? You got to forgive your mama and let go of your anger. Then you won't cling to that race stuff so much. You just boasted that you are better than me with several things and called yourself humble. Yeah, that's a joke. That's called a joke, Chris. You get it? That's the joke. And his servants carried him in a chariot, dead from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own sepulchre. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in his father's stead. And Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. Well, not Josiah. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bands at Riblah. Oh, I guess the Pharaoh killed Josiah. Why does my light get extra bright when I? Oh, it's because my hair is darker, so it brightens up. How does the light know? Oh no, that's not the light changing. That's the brightness of the camera adjusting. I get it. Okay. I thought my light was getting brighter. The light's staying the same. The camera is changing. When I put my head down, it gets brighter. Okay. Listen to just 3 sentences and I subscribe. Hey, let's go. You are a joke? Okay. No, I made a joke. I said I'm more persuasive, I'm more handsome, I'm way smarter, way more well spoken, and I'm more humble. That's the joke. Do you get it? Chris, jeez. Luis. Okay. Hold on. So the Pharaoh killed Josiah, not Josiah killed the Pharaoh. Oh, never mind. Freddie will love that. Freddie gonna love that. Was Josiah killed by because the way it's written, it looks like Josiah won by the Pharaoh. Pharaoh Necho. King Josiah was killed by Pharaoh Necho. Oh, there's Megiddo, evidence of King Josiah's death by Pharaoh Necho. Do we have extra biblical, real life archaeological evidence of this? King Josiah is remembered in the Bible as the last ruler of Judah who did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. According to scripture, Josiah met an untimely death at the hands of Pharaoh Necho II in about 609 BC at Megiddo in northern Israel, also known as Armageddon in Greek. Whoa. Recently, archaeological artifacts have been uncovered corroborating this biblical narrative. Massive amounts of Egyptian and Greek pottery were unearthed at Megiddo, providing evidence that Pharaoh Necho's Egyptian forces, along with Greek mercenaries, did indeed have a significant presence in the area at the end of the 7th century BC. These archaeological discoveries are important as they demonstrate the historical reliability of the Bible, something skeptics are reticent to admit. Base, dude, I love finding more archaeological evidence that the Bible is true. I got to tell Freddie about this. But he's gonna be like laughing. He's gonna be like, "Yeah, the Pharaoh won." Ha 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 ha. Where's Freddie? Tell him the Pharaoh beat Josiah, the last good king of Judah. The Pharaoh killed him, but in doing so, proved the historicity of the Bible. Based. Let's go. I gotta save this. We'll save that for later. Okay, let's keep going. Yes, it's a joke, dude. Jeez. All right. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bands at Riblah in the land of Hamath that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and put the land. Did I read? Okay, yeah. And put the land to a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho, in English it's pronounced. Oh yeah, okay, that's right, Pharaoh Necho. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the room of Josiah his father, and turned his name to Jehoiakim, and took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandment of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, of everyone according to his taxation, to give it unto Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Zebudah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. We got 2 chapters left. 2 chapters left. And then we'll watch that JLP and yay. Pimp might show up. Where's he? Where's Pimp Tight? Where's the Pharaoh? We need Chris and the Pharaoh in the chat so that I can challenge them both to a 3-way debate. We could do it on Easy Stream. We could do it on the Tomato. We could do it on my channel. We can do it wherever, whenever. Christian versus Pharaoh versus Hebrew Israelite. That would be an epic debate. Break what you're reading down for us. Well, a lot of 2 Kings, 1 Kings, 2 Kings is just the lineage of the kings, and it's just going through the history of Israel when the northern nation and the southern nation split into Judah and Israel. Israel is now wiped out. All that's left is Judah. It's the remnant. And right now, Josiah, we just read about Josiah, who is the last righteous king, the most righteous king since David, and he's the last righteous king. He's the last king to do right in the sight of the Lord. But God said, he told him, he said during not Hezekiah. Hezekiah was good, and then Josiah. But during Hezekiah, he said, all the people that are alive right now, because of you, I'm going to let them live and die peacefully. But after they're gone, it's all getting wiped out. So now Josiah's gone. Hezekiah's gone. There's no more righteous kings left. Everything's gone to doo-doo. There's sodomites and children sacrificers running around, and demon worshipers and wizards and sorcerers. And so God's about to Armageddon it. When Pharaoh Necho comes, basically that's the Bible actually uses the Greek word for Armageddon. Armageddon is here in the Old Testament. All right. Chapter 24. But pretty much, I'm not going to break down each chapter and each verse, because all it is just, it's just going through the history. It's kind of, sometimes it gets kind of repetitive. We get more into like breakdowns when we get some exciting stories and some interesting, or something that's confusing. But this is not confusing to me. This is just the history of Israel. But Jerusalem is about to be besieged in chapter 24, and in chapter 25, which we're about to read. It's gonna get messy for Judah. I never called myself a Hebrew Israelite. That's a nationality. Are you racist? I told you I don't believe in racism. But the reason you never called yourself a Hebrew Israelite is because you were being bad faith. You wouldn't answer every question I asked you. You would take 20 seconds to answer because you couldn't just. But then you tell me, let my yes be yes and let my no be no. But I'd say, are you black? And you'd be like, oh, well, I didn't say I was black. Okay. So you were dodging questions left and right. Looked like we were playing dodgeball. You can dodge a question, you can dodge a wrench. You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. All right, chapter 24. Me, myself, and I is getting restless. I need to read. All right, chapter 24. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Here come the Babylonians. Here come the Babylonians, just like God said would happen to Hezekiah. In the days of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of Chaldeans and bands of Syrians and bands of Moabites and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants the prophets, like Isaiah said would happen. Surely, hold on, I got some alert. Hold on. What was that? Uber. Oh, the Uber driver was flirting with me today. She was Hawaiian. And she was flirting with you, boy. She's like, I'm a flight attendant. You should become a flight attendant. Are you single? I'm like, yeah, I'm single. She's like, you need to apply. Go. You should apply there. It's great for single people. You're single? You like to travel? I like to travel. She was flirting with you, boy. And then when I was getting my groceries out the back, she's like, you need help? I'm like, no, I got it. She's like, I'll help you. She came and she's like helping me get my groceries. And she's like, okay, make sure you apply. Make sure you got to do it before you turn 40. Make sure you apply. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Have a good day. And she's like, bye, Joshua. And I was like, oh, what's good, girl? What you talking about, girl? But she was like Polynesian. She was thick. Travel is the best. She was thicker than a Snicker. I'm not into thick Polynesian ladies. No offense. She was nice. She was very nice. You know. But ain't my deal, you know. What was I looking up? What was I about to look up? Oh, my phone. I was checking something. I got an alert. Uno momento. Not now. Okay, cool. All right. Let's continue. We're on verse 3 of chapter 24. What's up, cat? Afternoon wank puffins? What the heck is a wank puffin? Surely, at the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that he shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in Jehoiakim and Jehoiachin. Is this the birth of the Asians? We got Kim and Chin. Ding, dong, 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 dong. Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin. His son reigned in his stead. And the king of Egypt came not again any more out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken from the river of Egypt unto the river Euphrates all that pertained to the king of Egypt. So first, they get conquered. Josiah gets killed by Pharaoh Necho. Armageddon happens. And now Egypt's in charge until the Babylonians roll up. Now the Babylonians are in charge. And Jehoiachin was 18 years old. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign. And he had reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. That's a very short reign. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. I like the redundancy. In case you didn't get it the first time, they'll say it a second time. And Jehoiachin, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother, and his servants, and his princes, and his officers, and the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Solomon, king of Israel, had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths, none remained, save the poorest sort of people of the land. He left the poor people. He's like, we don't need them. It's got to be a Saturday. I gave biblical responses, but since Europeans love the Bible but don't actually believe it, since Europeans, I'm not European, bro. Shiva's European, and he hates the Bible. Well, he loves reading the Bible so he can debunk it. How are we going to lock in the debate if you won't even admit that you're a Hebrew Israelite? You need to at first admit that you're a Hebrew Israelite, because the way the debate will be formulated will be Pharaoh versus Hebrew Israelite versus Christian. It'd be a three-way debate: Pharaoh versus Hebrew Israelite versus Christian. Every man for himself. No teams, because Freddie is going to come at both of us. He thinks we're both confused. But you do like it or love it? You love reading it to debunk it. August 11th, set it up now. I work on Mondays. It needs to be a Saturday. You can't do it Friday or Saturday? You can't do it Saturday? Saturday is the best day. Saturday, I got multiple channels we could do it at. It's got to be a Saturday, my boy. I work nights. How about, see, he won't do it on a Saturday. He ain't going to do it on a Saturday. Let me see. What do we got coming up? Ooh, we got Holloway versus Poirier this weekend. You talking about mid-August? Albazi versus Roman Dolidze, Anthony Hernandez. Dude's Saturday, August 9th. Ooh, Dricus du Plessis fighting at UFC 319. August 23rd. Saturday, August 23rd. Saturday, August 23rd. 8 p.m. Central Time. But I haven't even talked to the Pharaoh yet. We got to talk to the Pharaoh first. See, you got to come to the Saturday show, dude. You got to come to the Saturday show, get on a panel, and I'll call Freddie and have him get on the panel, and we can set it up. We can't do it with just us two because we already did a semi-Hebrew Israelite versus Christian debate. I think it'd be entertaining to have you and me and Freddie three-way. Pause. Me, myself, and I. If I didn't want to discuss it, then I wouldn't discuss it. This is how the Bible streams always go. I don't just read nonstop for 2 hours. Anyway, but I will start reading now. We can't figure this out unless we're all three here. What is this Muffet wittering about? He's a Hebrew Israelite. He called in the other day and we had a little bit of an impromptu debate. But I was unprepared. So it was kind of just like an off-the-cuff discussion. But I want to set up a three-way debate with a Pharaoh, a Kemetic Pharaoh, Freddie, a Hebrew Israelite, and me. It's an interesting, it would be an interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But anyway, it would be interesting because it'd be like, in a way, it would be like two black guys against a white guy. But not really. It would actually, at points, it would end up being me and Chris versus Freddie. I don't think it would ever be me and Freddie versus Chris. It would be me and Chris versus Freddie at points because we're both Bible thumpers. Freddie thinks the Bible is totally plagiarized from the Egyptians. So, but then at other times it would be like the two black guys versus the white guy. I think it would be an interesting thing there. You sound like a knuckle crawler. Admit you're racist? No, I don't believe in that. Okay, we'll keep going, Marshall. I'm not racist. I don't believe in racism. Nope. I just make jokes. You can't handle it? Okay, where were we? Nebuchadnezzar is taking over. Jehoiakim, the king of Egypt, came not anymore, pertained to the king of Egypt. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem. I already read that. He did that was just evil in the sight of the Lord. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against Jerusalem. The city was besieged. Servants did besiege it. Oh, wait, I know where we're at. We're at the servants did besiege it. Treasures. The poorest people of the land. Yeah, he left the poor people. Okay. Verse 15, chapter 24. And he carried away Jehoiachin to Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty of the land, those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths 1,000, all that were strong and apt for war, even them the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, his father's brother, king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. I don't think that's Jeremiah the prophet. No. And he did that which was evil, because Jeremiah the prophet came from Jerusalem. He didn't come from Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. Chapter 25. Zedekiah is rebelling against Babylon. Your attempt at an insult is cute. Oh, we could get an atheist in on this. Then it'd be two white guys and two black guys. An atheist, a Kemet Pharaoh, a Hebrew Israelite, and a Christian meet in a bar. Who walks out alive? Who do you think walks out alive? Chapter 25. Last chapter of 2 Kings. Let's finish 2 Kings. Let's get this. Let's get it on. Last chapter. Jerusalem's besieged. What's going to happen to Jerusalem? We about to find out. They're about to fall. You saw the title of the thumbnail. All right. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his host, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it. And they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th... Hey, you know what's funny, Shiva? My Bible doesn't even have footnotes. It's got reference verses and alternate definitions of some words, but it doesn't have footnotes. I make my own footnotes. Footnotes. Who reads footnotes? I don't even believe in Okay. And on the 9th day of the 4th month of the famine... And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city. Did I skip a verse? And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Zebulun, or of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard brake down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen, slaves. And the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases and the brazen sea that was in the house of the Lord, did the Chaldees break into pieces, and carried the brass of them to Babylon. And the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the spoons and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered took they away. And the fire pans and the bowls and such things as were of gold, in gold, and of silver, in silver, the captain of the guard took away. The two pillars, one sea, and the bases which Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the brass of all these vessels was without weight. The height of the one pillar was 18 cubits, and the chapiter upon it was brass, and the height of the chapiter 3 cubits, and the wreathen work and pomegranates upon the chapiter round about, all of the brass, and like unto these had the second pillar with wreathen work. And the captain of the guard took Sariah, the chief priest, my freaking light flickered. Sorry, looked like I had a seizure just now. Freaking out. My light's flickering. Man, those footnotes did get to me. You triggered me with the footnotes, man. And the captain of the guard took Sariah, the chief priest, and Zephaniah, the second priest, and the 3 keepers of the door. And out of the city he took an officer that was set over the men of war, and 5 men of them that were in the king's presence, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe of the host, which mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land that were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, took these and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them and slew them at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was carried away out of their land. And as for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, even over them he made Gedaliah, the son of Achiacam, the son of Shaphan, ruler. And when all the captains of the armies, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah governor, there came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, even Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan, the son of Kareah, and Seraiah, the son of Tanumeth, the Netophathite. Dude, every time I start to get used to these names, they throw out a new nationality's names. Now we're like getting Egyptian names, or Babylonian names, and they're totally different. I got used to the Hebrew names, the Israelite names, and now we got a bunch of Babylonian names. And Jaazaniah, the son of Makathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah sware to them and to their men, and said unto them, Fear not to be the servants of the Chaldees. Dwell in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. See, just if you're going to be a slave, be a good slave. Love your master, and it won't be so bad. But it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the seed royal, came, and 10 men with him, and smote Gedaliah, that he died. And the Jews and the Chaldees that were with him at Mizpah, and all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies, arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. And it came to pass in the 37th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 7th and 12th day of the month, that Evil Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, did lift up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, out of prison. Lifted up his head out of prison? I think that means he cut his head off. And he spake kindly to... Oh, no. Okay. Did lift up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, out of prison. The head of Jehoiachin's head would be maybe his prophet. The head is usually a word for the prophet, like Elijah was the hairy head of Elisha. The head is like your prophet. So maybe he's saying that he took Jehoiachin's prophet out of prison. And he spake kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments, and he did eat bread continually before him all the days of his life. And his allowance was a continual allowance given him of the king, a daily rate for every day, all the days of his life. And that is the end of 2 Kings. We finally got through 2 Kings. That one took a while because we got distracted with that last debate, with the Mosman debate. We're done with 2 Kings. Next is 1st and 2nd Chronicles, which I think, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think I've ever read all of 1st and 2nd Chronicles from front to back. I've read a lot of 1st and 2nd Chronicles, but never just straight through like I'm doing now. But I'm pretty sure 1st and 2nd Chronicles just goes back through all of the 4 books of Kings again. So the Bible does that a lot. It gets kind of repetitive sometimes. So get ready. We're going to hear all the stories of David, Goliath, Samuel, Elijah, Elisha, Hezekiah, Manasseh. And then we hear it all again in Isaiah. We hear about Hezekiah again in Isaiah. All of those stories from 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, we're going to be hearing those stories over and over again for a while until we get to the books, like the books of wisdom, like Psalms and Proverbs and some of the minor prophets. But even Isaiah and Jeremiah are going to repeat a lot of this stuff again. Answer this. If someone stole your dad's expensive house and unalived him, this is YouTube. You must be a TikToker. You must be a TikToker. We're not on TikTok. You can say killed. I'm reading the Bible. Like, I'm reading the Bible. You think we haven't said the word kill a million times while we've been reading the Bible? You must be a TikToker. Answer this. If someone stole your dad's expensive house and killed him in the process, when you got much older, you wanted it back. Should you get it even if his grandson had it? No. Also, that's not, I know what you're trying to argue. You're trying to argue for like reparations for slavery or something. If I was alive and I was my dad's son and I was in his house when this happened and you killed my dad biblically, I would be justified in acting as the avenger of blood and killing you. So I wouldn't expect the government to take the house from whoever killed my dad and give it back to me. I would just go handle it, and then I would get the house back. So, but that's irrelevant because we're talking about I was there. I saw my dad get killed. I was in the house with him. You took my house too. You're talking about what, 250 years ago, 400 years ago? How long are we going back? No, that's dumb. Unless he made it to a refugee city. That's only for manslaughter. That's if you the refugee city is only for people who commit manslaughter, because the Avenger of Blood, regardless of whether it's manslaughter or murder, the Avenger of Blood is still going to want blood. So they're going to be coming after you. So if you accidentally kill somebody, you go to the city of refuge. The city of refuge isn't for murderers. It's for manslaughter. Manslayers. The manslayer is another word for manslaughter. It's people who kill on accident. If you purposefully, intentionally murder somebody, you don't get to go to the refugee city and hide it out. It's not how that works. Shiva. Should read that part again. Yeah, if they want to try. Which natives? Because we worked with a lot of natives when we colonized America. We did it with the help of a lot of natives. I think there was, we looked into this before. I think there was something like 33 original settlers. Very low number of settlers. You think this little number of settlers managed to just do it all on their own? No, we had the help of Native Americans who saw our way of life and loved it, and they were gentle, peaceful people like Rebecca, aka Pocahontas, like not Sacagawea, what's the other guy's name? What's the other guy's name? Sarah. Who am I thinking of? And they actually went to England and became Christians and came back to America. And then Rebecca married Pocahontas. When Pocahontas died, her name was not Pocahontas. Her name was Rebecca. She took on a Christian name. She married John Wolfe, and she loved our culture. And then those tribes not only helped us learn the land, learn to fish, learn to grow some crops that we didn't know about, but they also helped us fight the savages who were eating people, who had slaves. Hey, did you know, Chris Terry, that Juneteenth is not the day that the last slaves were freed in America? The last slaves that were freed in America were slaves who were held by indigenous people after Juneteenth. It was like 10 months later. We finally got the red man to let go of the slaves that they had way after Juneteenth. Did you know that? I bet you didn't know that. But the reason that they picked Juneteenth as the day is because it's got to be the evil white man. They don't want to point out that actually the last slaves that were held captive were being held by indigenous people. Oh yeah, that's right. They had slaves. The natives had slaves, and they were eating people and doing child sacrifice. Not all of them. A lot of them were great people. Christopher, you can read about it in Christopher Columbus's diary. He said they were beautiful people and they would make great slaves. And he meant, what he meant by that was they would make great slaves to Christ. That's what he meant. A lot of people say that he was just looking for some slaves. he was talking about slaves to Christ. Red man bad. I thought orange man bad. Not all red mans are bad. But some of them were very bad. And some of them we bought land from. Some of them we traded for their land. But then since they had no concept of land ownership or what trade was, 6 months later they're like, "Hey, we want our land back." How? And we're like, "No, we traded for this. This is ours now." And they're like, "No, we kill you and eat you." And so we had to take them out. We had to handle that. Anyway, this is Bible study, Chris. This is not history class. I could give you history class another time. You learn the land and stop the savages, and just so happen to take literally everything from the natives in the process. Europeans are great, right? What do you mean? There are still natives to this day. To this day. There's still natives to this day. And they still got reservations. What are you talking about? You gotta stop living in this fantasy. You fell for the okie doke, my boy. Here, I'm gonna play something you're gonna like. You need to listen to this guy. This guy will get you out of all that. We're gonna listen to Ye at JLP's church. Easy visuals. Ye and Jesse Lee Peterson conversation at his church. I want to get it straight from JLP's. I want to get it straight from JLP's channel, though. But I don't know which. You'd think they would have clipped it. Jesse Lee Peterson interviews Kanye. I guess we got to get it from somebody else's channel. I could find it in the... Hold on, I got to make sure the audio is not on the speakers. Headphones. This one. Okay. Godzilla. Chinchilla. Laughing to the bank of Frank Ben Stiller.
Right on, man.
All right. Hold on. Check this out. This is pretty awesome. Who would have thought Ye would go to JLP's church? You worked with them and broke over 500 treaties in less than 100 years. Prove me wrong. I'll have ironclad facts on the debate. You're going to have revisionist history that lies to you. What does that have to do with Christians versus Hebrew Israelite versus Pharaoh? Pick a lane, dude. All right. Right on, man. All right, check this out.
Any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Get the mic to the young man next to you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anger?
Yeah, I think I'm the walking, living embodiment of anger.
I can't hear you. What'd you say?
Yes.
Speak up for me.
Yes.
What'd you say?
Yes, I do have anger.
You do. Why don't you drop your anger?
Yeah, that's what I'm learning here.
You learning what?
To drop the anger.
And so what is this your first time here?
Yes.
And what's your name?
Jesse doesn't even know. Is this your first time here? Like Kanye West is just coming into the church every week and Jesse hasn't noticed yet. Yes, it's his first. Jesse's so funny.
How'd you hear about us?
My name is Jay. I heard about you from Hassan.
Right on. Any questions first about anything that you've heard or anything? Or working on yourself and all that?
No.
Okay. Why don't you drop the anger?
Oh, I'm deciding to do that after hearing this.
Oh. What would happen to you if you had no anger?
Well, you got a one-way connection to God, Chris. God is not pleased. Okay. Okay.
I could be used by God more.
That's for sure. Do you know where your anger came from?
Your mama
How did you become angry?
resenting your mama. You were born of the flesh of the woman. You have to be reborn of your father God, of the spirit.
Just different events throughout my life that I felt were didn't add up, where 2 plus 2 didn't equal 4.
Without offering any methods for doing so. Oh, well, then you've never listened to JLP before because he's about to give him the method to do so. The same way I dropped my anger, the same way you can drop your anger, Shiva. Forgive your mother and return to your father.
And the answer to why it didn't happen was just somebody just shrugging their shoulders.
The last thing you say, what?
The answer to why the simple math didn't add up or it didn't go my way is that someone just looked at me and shrugged their shoulders.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What has Hassan told you you need to forgive your mother? Your anger came from her?
No, I didn't hear that before today.
Are you serious? He didn't tell you that. What the? No. You're never going to be free until you forgive your mother. You become just like her. You become like what you hate, and the thoughts and the emotions and all that
Of the woman.
is hers.
Yep.
That's why God said that all who are born of the woman must be born of the Father. So you got to forgive her for what she's done to you when you were a little kid, impose her will on you, too mothering, too dominating, turning you away from your father. You must go to her. When you can see that, I do have this anger. I'm just like my mother. And you go to her, hey, mother, I'm sorry for resenting you. You recreated me in your image, and I can't help myself. I'm just like you. I'm sorry for resenting you. And God will forgive you. Don't ask for forgiveness. You got to admit that you're wrong for judging. Anyone that has anger judges, and anyone that judges play God, and you will never know God. You'll know about him.
know about
You'll hear
God.
about him, you'll talk about it, but you won't know him. But you got to face your mother and forgive her. And your father for not protecting you from your mother.
Most life-changing thing that I've ever done, by the way.
He didn't know how to deal with the hell in her. He loved you. He just didn't know how to deal with the hell in your mother because he married his mother. Your mother.
And also, a lot of people will hear Jesse say this and they'll get mad about it. This trope is in, once you hear it and once you do it, you'll start to see it everywhere. You'll see it in movies. You'll hear it in music. The theme of returning to your parents. Now, usually in movies, they say your parents. And Jesse does too. He says you have to forgive your parents. But first, it starts with the mother because we are born through the flesh of the mother. That's why it's usually primarily the mother, especially with boys. Boys yearn for their love of their father. They don't hate their father. They think they hate their father because they have their mother's hatred of their father. And their father thinks he loves their mother, but really he hates his mother, so he found a mama. He went and found a new mama. So he becomes the boy and she becomes the mother. And the cycle just goes on and on and on and on and on. And the way you break the cycle, the way you honor your mother and your father is by forgiving your mother and returning to your father. That emotion, that hatred, that resentment is because we are born from the flesh of the woman. And the woman, Eve, ate the apple. And then the man made the woman his God because the woman made Satan her God. So it goes all the way back to Genesis. And you can break that cycle and you can return to your earthly father to get to your heavenly father, to get to Jesus, to get to God. That's how you do it. Boom.
became his mother, and the cycle repeats itself. So you got to forgive him for not protecting you from her. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was digesting that from what people was talking about when they were talking earlier.
Nobody else would have the balls to say this to Ye. Nobody would say anything like this to Ye, except Jesse. Because you know Ye loves it. He loves his mama, but he doesn't love his mama. He thinks he loves his mom. He thinks he loves her with worldly love, which is fake love. But Jesse will look him dead in his eyes. I wonder if he's wearing his mask. I wish they never take the camera off Jesse at the churches, but I would love to see if Ye's wearing a mask right now. Like a ski mask with diamonds all over it. That'd be crazy.
Early.
Yeah.
I think if he was, Jesse would be like, "Why are you wearing a mask?" I bet you he's not wearing a mask because Jesse would say something to him. While forgiving is a useful tool, it doesn't do anything about the arising of anger, which is involuntary. Meta seems to be a much stronger method to me. Meta, you mean meditation? Well, what you call meditation, I would just call silent prayer. It's being still and knowing God. You have to do that too. I would agree. That is also important. But you can meditate all day. If you have resentment towards anyone, and it starts at your mother, because we're born through the mother. If you have resentment towards anyone, you have resentment towards your mother, you forgive your mother, you drop that resentment, and then you do the silent prayer. You do prayer. Jesse calls it the silent prayer. You call it meditation. I just call it prayer. Be still and know God. Go into your prayer closet, be still and know that I am God. That's what you call meditation, Shiva. But you can meditate all day if you don't have forgiveness and you have resentment in your heart. You're always that anger is going to involuntarily arise in you. But there's a way to stop that.
Yeah.
Earlier, I thought that was, I like this really stern black and white approach.
Yeah.
And it may, or I feel that I see clarity in it.
Right on. And if you could see it a little bit, that God is allowing you to see it. I can't make you see it. No one here can make you see it. Only God allows those who see it who want to see it. He doesn't let everybody see it because most people don't want to see it. Most people love their misery. They love their thrills. They love their hell. One last quick question, then I got to move on. Who are you?
Nobody. He asks everybody this, and everybody always answers the same way. They either say, I'm a father, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a business owner, or I'm a Christian, or any of these things. And I'm not sure about this, but I think the answer Jesse's looking for, and he's hoping that they'll realize, is that you're nobody. There is no you. And I think Shiva would like that. Shiva just thinks Jesse's a troll. He's not a troll. He trolls, but he's not. This is like serious stuff. But I think the answer when he says, "Who are you?" I think the answer is nobody.
I think of a lot of things when you ask that. I come up with a lot of different answers.
Okay, and give me those answers, some of them.
I'm a son. I'm a father. I'm a king. I'm a student. I'm a teacher.
That's
I'm
what
a
you do.
husband.
That's not who you are.
I'm a leader. Those are the things that come to
Okay.
mind. Yeah.
So those are the things you do, but who are you? You name me all the stuff you do.
Can I cheat off his test?
What a mess. No cheating here, buddy. You told me what you do, and you have kids, what you have, and all that other stuff, but you didn't tell me who you are. Who are you?
I don't know what answer you're looking. I don't know how to answer that.
Did you know you didn't know who you really are? Before now?
Yeah, I must have been looking for something. That's why I pulled up to church, to the meeting.
So you didn't know that you didn't know who you are. Before now, you didn't know who you are. You don't know yourself. You don't know who you are.
Yeah, I think I have those titles like when you're talking about school earlier and people go to school and then I forgot you were talking with her about it earlier, and people go to get degrees to define themselves.
I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. Yeah. I'm a therapist. I'm the president. Okay, but who are you? That's what you do, dummy. But who are you? People don't know who they are. That's why they're lost. What is it like? Last question, then I got to go here. What is it like living a life not knowing who you are? What is it like living that way?
It's like my navigation today is kept rerouting.
What a mess. Any questions or anything?
Where'd you get that shirt from? I want to get one of those.
I love this shirt. It was a gift. Someone gave it to me. If you want it, you can have it. You want it?
Oh, well, not right now, but like later. I think.
I'll give it to you after the meeting. You can have it. Amazing. So, any other question or anything? Oh, did Hassan tell you to do the silent prayer so you can learn to be still and let God take over?
No, he didn't tell me that either.
What the?
Why haven't you told him these things?
Bro, he's here. I'm having you tell him.
But you are the light too. You just said we're brothers. Christ, we're brothers, you know, and you know the truth, and this is your friend. Why haven't you told him the truth or point the way toward the truth to him? Why have you done that? I really want to know.
No, you're right.
No, that was the question.
I'm sorry, I don't know. It's overwhelming, you know. It's a lot, you know. It's like this is a crazy moment right now because he's like my two favorite people on the planet Earth, and it's like this makes me so happy that this moment is happening. So let's just stay in the positive, Jesse. I don't know. I don't got an answer for you on that one. I'm sorry.
Hassan's slacking.
But that's amazing to me. That he is a good friend, I know. You know the truth, how to get to the truth. What he needs to do to get there. And if he accepts it, fine. If he doesn't, fine. But at least you know. And you don't have to impose it on him, but at least you know. It's interesting that you haven't mentioned it to him at all.
Well, I've shown him some videos. You know, I don't know. Here's the thing. You're a lot to take in, so I'm just slowly.
Oh.
You know,
But he seemed ready to really hear the truth.
You're right. I know. I'm making excuses. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Sorry.
What a beta.
Beta.
Beta!
Chris, Terry,
Beta!
that's for you. Quit spurging in the chat, dude. Nobody cares about European colonialization. This ain't the European colonizer debate. That's not what the debate's about. We ain't talking about colonization. All right? This is about theology and philosophy. It's not about history. This isn't the History Channel, dude. I don't even know that the past exists. I don't believe the past exists. It's a part of it. No, it's not. It's really not. It's irrelevant. You're angry. You got anger towards the white man. You got to forgive your mama. You got to go and forgive your mama. You got to look her in your eyes and you got to say, Mama, I forgive you for making me angry. I forgive you for resenting you. For me resenting you. I forgive you for me resenting you. All right. It's 11:30. Oh. We can react to one other thing real quick. It's short. It's a heart and spirit issue, not an ethnicity issue. Exactly, Abe. Exactly. Let me see. I watched this last night, but I couldn't really pay attention because I was doing something at work. But I want to watch it again. But there's nothing new in this video. That it's a Trent Horn video that has been staying at the top of my feed. But I told you I like when I find archaeological and any sort of evidence for historicity of the Bible. And Trent Horn has this video that says, bigger than the Dead Sea Scrolls, new evidence for Jesus from outside the Bible. Now, this came out 2 days ago, but the first one he mentions is not new. We talked about it on the show, I think like a year and a half ago. It's this mosaic that they found in Israel that says the God Jesus or something like that. It has the words God and Jesus in this mosaic that they uncovered. But this is not new. He's just making a video about this now. Like, it's old, but there is some other interesting stuff that I had never heard before about Josephus. And there's a historian that wrote a book explaining more about the Antiquities, part 20, I believe, part 20 of the Antiquities in Josephus, which mentions Jesus. And the theory was always that Christians over time had slightly changed some of the things Josephus wrote to make it more support. There was definitely 100% Josephus mentions Jesus. James, the brother of Jesus, who is Christ, is what it says. And in Antiquities. But there was, most Christians would say, well, we understand that over time some Christians did get a hold of that and they did kind of alter it to make it more seem like Josephus was more supportive or more, what am I trying to say? That Josephus was like saying more than he was actually saying. Josephus was mentioning Jesus Christ, but the way it's written, they would say, well, he wouldn't have said this and he wouldn't have said this. So maybe Christians throughout time altered it. And so most Christians, it's called like partial alteration theory about the Josephus writings and Antiquities. But some smart guy wrote a book recently and did a paper on it. And he's saying that it's actually justifiable that none of it was changed, and that's exactly how Josephus wrote it, which involves like languages and stuff that I don't know enough about. So that's the part I'm more interested in than this mosaic, because this mosaic thing is not new. I talked about this years ago. So we're gonna watch this real quick, and then I'm gonna go. Second.
Protestants and Catholics have the same New Testament, but they just
Nope, this is
following. In early Christianity, in today's episode, we're going to examine 3 new pieces of evidence for Jesus that are found outside the Bible, and so they provide even more evidence for the truth of the Christian faith. So let's start with the first piece of evidence that some have described as being bigger than the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Number 1, a 3rd century inscription saying Jesus is God. This one got traction in several 2024 news articles describing an inscription from the year 230 calling Jesus God. Here's one news story about it.
They carefully excavated the mosaic, hiding it securely in northern Israel, until flying it here for a first public appearance.
See, this is old. This mosaic. Also, this was uncovered under, I don't know about this, but this seems like it's probably a recreation.
Table is dedicated to the God Jesus Christ. Now, this phrase, God Jesus Christ, is in the 5th line of the inscription, and it is actually in a shortened form. So the letters that have the lines over them, it
says T-Pain.
Actually a respectful way to write those words.
Dr. Duke believes these early writings are some of the first to show belief in the deity of Jesus, with this inscription from a Christian woman identified as a Keptis that reads God Jesus Christ. The Megiddo mosaic is one he hopes will open up a world of
We're actually just talking about Megiddo. And Megiddo is the word that Isn't Megiddo the word that translates to Armageddon? Megiddo, evidence of King Josiah's death by Pharaoh Necho. So, Megiddo in northern Israel is also known as Armageddon in Greek. But see, so this is some of the archaeological evidence that is found in Megiddo, which is mentioned with Pharaoh Necho when he conquers Josiah in 2 Kings 23.
Possibilities for future discoveries.
The Megiddo mosaic also shows images of loaves and fish, which refers to Jesus' miraculous feeding of the 5,000. Pope Benedict XVI said in a 2012 address that, quote, "The crowd was impressed by the miracle. It sees in Jesus the new Moses, worthy of power, and in the new manna, the future guaranteed. However, the people stopped at the material element, which they had eaten." And Pope Leo XIV said, "Beyond being a marvel, the miracle is a sign that reminds us that God's gifts, even the smallest, grow whenever they are shared."
If the housing market is as bad as
Bro, you are spurging in the chat, Chris.
they say
I'm not going to debate with you in chat.
it is, then why does your douchebag of a cousin
What is that?
Shows Jesus revealing the truth about the Eucharist, the bread which is his body that gives eternal life to the people that wanted more miraculously earthly bread. The early belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist as a sacrifice that takes away sin is also in the Megiddo mosaic, because the text reads as follows: "The God-loving Akeptus has offered the table to God Jesus Christ as a memorial." The word table can refer to altar, as can be seen in 1 Corinthians 10:21. "You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons." One study of the Megiddo Church points out that Christians used different words to refer to different kinds of altars. It says the following: "In early Christianity, the altar was not called bomos, like the altars on which the pagans used to sacrifice, nor thesterion, as it was later named because of its identification with the altar of the temple, but trapeza, dining table, for here did the faithful celebrate the first rite, except for baptism, of the new religion, the breaking of bread and drinking of wine, as Jesus had instructed the apostles." So this early inscription shows that Jesus is God because you only offer sacrificial worship on an altar to God, but also that the early Christian liturgy involved offering the one sacrifice of Jesus Christ. As I noted in previous episodes, the description of offering the Eucharist in remembrance of Jesus in the Gospels uses the Greek word anamnesis, which is more properly translated memorial sacrifice. So these early Christians didn't just believe Jesus was God. They believe that they received the God-man in the Eucharistic sacrifice. That's why St. Cyprian, writing around the time of this inscription, said the following: "For if Jesus Christ, our Lord and God, is himself the chief priest of God the Father, and has first offered himself a sacrifice to the Father, and has commanded this to be done in commemoration of himself, certainly that priest truly discharges the office of Christ, who imitates that which Christ did, and he then offers a true and full sacrifice in the church to God the Father, when he proceeds to offer it according to what he sees Christ himself to have offered." Before we check out the next two pieces of evidence, this is just a reminder that there's another source outside.
Yeah, so that's the table in Megiddo, but or the mosaic in Megiddo. But that's not new. It's fairly recent compared to things like the Shroud of Turin, or the tomb, but it's not like super new. It's like at least it's been a year or two since this was found.
Outside the Bible that can build up your faith, that being this channel. So if you want to help us make content like this, please hit the subscribe button and support us for as.
But now this Megiddo evidence of King Josiah's death by Pharaoh Necho, this article is from March 21st of 2025. New pottery discoveries provide the first evidence of Egyptian forces stationed in the city of Megiddo at the time of biblical King Josiah's death. So I find it odd that Trent is mentioning the mosaic that we've known about for a while now, and he's not mentioning this pottery. Now, I don't know how accurate this article is. Let me see if I can find some other articles that talk about this instead of just this one. Pottery in Megiddo proves Bible. Let's see if there's any other sources on this. New York Post, April 1st, 2025. Archaeologists uncover proof of ancient biblical battle at Megiddo between Josiah and Pharaoh Necho. That's crazy that we just read about that today. And just a month or two ago, they found this pottery. But Trent's not mentioning the pottery. Unless he mentions it. No, he doesn't mention it in this video. Surprised he doesn't mention the pottery that proves the battle at Megiddo with Pharaoh Necho and Josiah. But he mentions the mosaic, which that's like 2 years. That's like 2 years old news. The Times of Israel made an article about it in March 30th, 2025. The Jerusalem Post, March 11th. Archeo News, April 27th, 2025. And then Museum of the Bible to premiere Megiddo Mosaic. The Megiddo Mosaic was premiered in a museum in August of 2024. So it's fairly recent, but let me see. When was the Megiddo Mosaic discovered? Because I feel like I talked about this a while ago. The Megiddo Mosaic was discovered in 2005. Yeah. So I think the reason it popped up in the news, I think I must have talked about it on my show sometime in like July or August of last year. So about a year ago on my show, I talked about the Megiddo Mosaic because it had moved to that museum, and that's why it popped up in the news. But the Megiddo Mosaic was discovered in 2005. So we've known about this for 20 years. This is not new evidence. What he should be talking about in this first section is this pottery that proves the Battle of Megiddo. When Pharaoh Necho killed Josiah. We now have archaeological evidence of that battle. And that's new. Like, that's a month, 2 months new.
Little as $5 a month at TrenthornPodcast.com. All right, next up is number 2. Jesus' tomb is a garden tomb. John 19:41 says, "Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb where no one had ever been laid."
So this part, there's the tomb. Now there's actually, we did a show like 2 or 3 years ago where I talked about where is the tomb of Jesus, because the Catholics say that it's here, and they've actually built a whole like this is the tomb, and they dug it out, and then they built all of this around it. But some people say, and I don't want to piss no Catholics or no Orthodox off. I don't know if Orthodox even believe this, but I'm just saying, some people say there's actually another place that is a better possible location of the tomb. But I couldn't really pay attention to this part while I was at work today. I already know about the Megiddo thing, but this part is interesting. I have not heard about this. So this, apparently they found some seeds and some stuff, some seeds that prove the temple. And then he actually plays a debunk of this theory, but then he debunks the debunk. So
Previous episode on the 2 tombs of Jesus, link below.
Yeah,
I talk about the so-called garden
okay. And I think when I did my show about the 2 tombs of Jesus, I played this same video.
tomb.
Not Trent Horn's video, but this video that he's playing. I played this on my stream. This is one of the potential tombs. And then there's the other one, which they've built the thing around.
Of Jerusalem. It's popular with Protestants because it lacks the Catholic and Orthodox elements that
It doesn't have the big, right. This is more popular with the Protestants because it doesn't have the big, like, shrine built around it. That the Catholics go there and they say this is the tomb of Jesus, but a lot of people are like, a lot of theologians and archaeologists are like, this looks more like something that they built to represent the tomb of Jesus and to honor it, like a symbolic type thing. But it's more likely that it's in this garden right here. But that, I could just be making, maybe I'm biased because I grew up Protestant. But anyway, let's listen.
you find in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But this Protestant tomb of Jesus also has no good historical claim to being Jesus's actual tomb.
I can't remember. I feel like he's also biased, though. Maybe we're both biased, but I did a show about it a long time ago. It's somewhere in the logs. If you just type in JS Temple of Jesus, let me see if I can find it. I think if I would just type in the search bar, JS Urban Adventures, dude, any topic that you want to see if I ever talked about it, just, I probably did at some point. JS Urban Adventures, Temple, or Tomb of, not Tomb, Temple, Tomb of Jesus. Tomb of Jesus. It's not popping up, so either I didn't tag good enough, I didn't tag the video properly, or it's just really far down. We have to scroll down. Now it does show me my channel right off the rip. What if I search in my videos? I'm not, there's so many shorts. I don't want shorts. Let me go to YouTube Studio. And let me search across my channel. Tomb. Nothing's coming up. It's also possible that it's on. It's also possible that I did it when I was banned, and it might be on Rumble, not YouTube. That's possible. What if I go to content, playlists, the dreaded conservative, videos. Let me scroll down. Wait, we'll start at the beginning. TDC 55. No. I want to go. Here we go. See, we would have to look at the thumbnails. Yeah, I don't remember what episode it was, but Trump arrangement, China conflict, Easter being pagan. I don't know. I did an episode about it, but I don't know if I guess I didn't title it good enough or tag it so that you could just find it. Search across your channel. I don't see it. If I search tomb, nothing comes up. Trump flexes on Zelensky. Epstein joint Congress address Elon JRE. Yeah, it's not. I don't know what episode it was. But anyway.
Contrast, the traditional site of Jesus' tomb within the Church of the Holy Sepulchre does have good evidence for its historicity. Now, you wouldn't think of a picturesque garden tomb in this spot, and it would be hard to know that since the Emperor Hadrian built temples to the pagan gods of Rome over the site of Calvary and Jesus' tomb, which ironically marked the site for future pilgrims to know its location. Recently, my friend Cameron Bertuzzi did an episode on his channel discussing new archaeological evidence that Jesus' tomb in the Holy Sepulchre was built over a garden, just as it's described in John's Gospel.
Archaeobotanical analyses, which is just a fancy word for studying ancient plant remains, revealed preserved olive pits, grape seeds, and pollen trapped in sealed soil layers beneath the church floor. And these weren't just like random seeds scattered about. They were actually neatly organized into terraced planting beds lined by low stone walls. Exactly what you'd expect to see in a cultivated garden from the 1st century. As if that weren't enough, researchers also uncovered several rock-cut tombs carved directly into the bedrock. And these weren't just caves formed by nature, they were purposefully hand-chiseled chambers dating precisely to the era around Jesus' crucifixion. Again, just as the Gospels describe.
Check out Cameron's whole episode, link below for more on that. But I want to respond to a few points that Stephen Woodford, an atheist commenter from Rationality Rules, made in reply to Cameron, because Stephen really made a big deal out of nothing in his reply.
The logical fallacy here is rather obvious. Cameron's essentially arguing that the gospel says someone was buried.
It's always a dang British guy. Always a dang British atheist.
In a rock-cut tomb outside the city walls. We found rock-cut tombs outside of the city walls. Therefore, the gospel account is historically accurate. Again, by using this logic, archaeologists discovering Troy, as described in Homer's Iliad, would prove that Achilles was actually the son of a goddess. This should be obvious, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it is obvious to most Christians, surely. But finding the setting doesn't validate the supernatural claims made about what happened there.
No, but it adds... No, it just adds another brick in our wall that we're building of impenetrable, incontrovertible truth of the biblical narrative. How do I get this off here? Get off of here, ad.
It provides more evidence for that supernatural conclusion. There is no way to directly prove a miracle like the resurrection or Christ's ascension through archaeology. But historical sciences do provide empirical facts that can lead to a supernatural conclusion. For example, critics like John Dominic Crossan claim Jesus wasn't buried in a tomb at all, and his body, like the body of other criminals, was thrown in a pit to be devoured by wild animals. And so he claims the gospel account is a legend about his burial in a tomb. But archaeological finds like the skeleton of a man named Yehohanan show that crucified criminals were buried in tombs. Also, Cameron is not saying, here's a tomb, therefore Jesus is God, like in Woodford's Troy example. Cameron's saying it's striking that the traditional tomb of Christ in a 4th century church also happens to be around other tombs that were built centuries earlier, thus confirming this site was not part of a later legend, but fits perfectly with the claim that Jesus of Nazareth was killed and then buried among other new tombs.
Christians are my brothers.
And the same is true of there being a garden, which, contrary to Woodford's claim, weren't all over the place, but would be a unique thing to find in this location that further corroborates John's claims. All of this confirms his
Britons are not my brothers. Christians are my brothers. Daddy Jub and BDB is my brothers. They're my biological brothers, but my brothers are my brothers in Christ. And they're from all over the world.
Historical details that make the natural facts supporting the resurrection more reliable. Christ died by crucifixion, was buried in a locatable tomb. His followers claimed to see him physically alive 3 days later, and they were capable of checking his tomb to see if it was truly empty. Number 3, a new defense of Josephus.
This guy is second place. Hey, we got the crowns. I didn't even notice I got the crowns now. I didn't even know that was in my chat. We got the crowns now. Top fans. How is Chris the top fan?
His testimony about Jesus.
Second place.
Some people ask me if there's evidence for Jesus outside the Bible, and there is. But even if there weren't, the Bible is not an invalid source. It's like many other ancient documents, and so it can be used to demonstrate truths about the ancient world.
Me, myself, and I is in first place. Hold on. Okay, this last one's interesting too. This is new. A new smart person wrote a book about Josephus' writings that kind of disproves the partial the partial something theory. The idea that Josephus did write about Jesus, but then later Christians changed it slightly, which has been the accepted narrative from Christians. So if a Christian said Josephus wrote about Jesus and somebody's like, yeah, but or somebody's like, no, Christians changed that and blah, 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 we would say, we agree to that. We understand that. But he did write about Jesus, but Christians added stuff and they kind of elaborated on it a little bit to make it seem more fantastic. But he did write about Jesus. So regardless, it does prove Jesus's life and crucifixion. But this new author apparently says, no, Christians didn't change anything. That is the way Josephus wrote it.
Outside the Bible, and there is. But even if there weren't, the Bible is not an invalid source. It's like many other ancient documents, and so it can be.
I know, I hate when people are like, the Bible is not a historical document. You don't have any evidence that somebody parted the Red Sea. Well, we do. We have multiple historical documents because the Bible isn't one book. The Bible is a collection of documents from over a long period of time, multiple different places, from multiple different authors. And the way that they would use word of mouth, they would tell stories. And so if Moses parted the sea and there were witnesses and these witnesses talked about it and said it to other people, and then later they said it to other people also, then when Joshua comes along and parts the Jericho River, the Jordan River, then people are like, man, that's like what Moses did, because the story had been passed down and then they all witness it. And now they're like, well, Joshua did it, Moses did it. And then when Elijah parts the Jordan River, then people are like, that's just like Joshua and Moses did. And generation after generation after generation have seen multiple people do this. If it was just a made up story, then they wouldn't present it as if it were fact. They wouldn't keep telling the story like it was fact. There wouldn't be multiple people keep doing it, and multiple different authors of different places write about these multiple people doing it in multiple different historical documents. In the book of Joshua, in the book of Samuel, in the book or Kingdoms, whatever you want to call it, in the book of Exodus, multiple different documents talk about people doing this. And these documents have survived and been proliferated throughout thousands of years to today. And there's also some historicity there. They found chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea. They know where it probably happened, all kinds of things. We looked into that a while ago. The evidence of the parting of the Red Sea. But anyway,
used to demonstrate truths about the ancient world. That said, there are some early non-Christian witnesses to Jesus. One of them is Flavius Josephus, a Jewish historian employed by the Romans who wrote a history of the Jewish war against Rome and a history of the Jewish people called the Antiquities. In Book 20 of the Antiquities, Josephus refers to the brother of Jesus who was called Christ, whose name was James, which nearly all scholars believe is authentic. What's more controversial is Book 18 of the Antiquities, where Josephus says this: "About this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man. For he was one who performed surprising deeds, and was a teacher of such people as accept the truth gladly. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. He was the Christ. And when, upon the accusation of the principal men among us, Pilate had condemned him to a cross, those who had first come to love him did not cease.
See, as a Jewish historian, it doesn't seem like this is something that Josephus would write. So the argument is that Christians added this later to make it more convincing. But the Jesus, brother of James, or James, brother of Jesus, who is the Christ, it's pretty much, agreed upon that he did write that. But then people would argue that Josephus probably didn't write this. Some Christians later added this. But apparently, that's been debunked now by some smart person.
Appeared to them, spending a third day restored to life. For the prophets of God had foretold these things, and 1,000 other marvels about him. And the tribe of the Christians so called after him has still to this day not disappeared." Josephus did refer to Jesus, but that this passage has been subject to Christian revisions over time. That's because Josephus was an unconverted Jew, so he would never have said Jesus was the Messiah or the Christ. Origen even says in his commentary on Matthew that Josephus did not accept Jesus as Christ. The reference of Jesus rising on the third day would also be out of place for an unconverted Jew. But scholars don't think the entire passage is a forgery, because there are other phrases that make it unlikely a Christian invented the whole thing, which itself would also be unheard of because Christians did not alter Josephus anywhere else, nor did they alter the first century texts of the Jew Philo, who discussed ideas relevant to Christianity but never mentions Jesus. For example, the passage in Josephus calls Jesus a wise man, which is not a Christian description of Jesus because it makes it sound like Jesus was merely a man. Likewise, Josephus says that Christians belong to a tribe, but Christians did not describe themselves in this way. For a while, I held to the partial authenticity theory, but now I'm much
partial authenticity theory. So he's saying that's the idea that Josephus did mention Jesus, but later Christians kind of added a little bit to it to make it more of a stronger argument.
much more open to the idea that the entire passage is authentic, and have come across new answers to other common objections to this claim. This past May, T.C. Schmidt, who earned a PhD at Yale, has published a book with Oxford University Press called Josephus and Jesus: New Evidence for the One Called Christ. Schmidt has done extensive word analysis of the passage to show that the vocabulary adheres to Josephus's style. It's not something the typical forger would produce. Schmidt's also shown the passage fits in the context of the surrounding narrative in Josephus and has answered many similar objections claiming the passage is not authentic. He also does a good job showing how Josephus's original testimony about Jesus was probably neutral or even negative, which explains why Christians didn't cite this passage until later in church history. Other manuscripts show that the phrase, he was the Christ, was probably rendered, he was called Christ, which matches what Josephus says in Book 20. Also, if a Christian had interpolated the phrase, they probably would have said Jesus is the Christ in the present tense. Likewise, the phrase, if he be called a man, is probably not from a Christian revision, but from Josephus thinking Jesus may have been a wonder worker or a sorcerer, which falls in line with ancient Jewish polemics against Jesus. And the line about Jesus appearing to the disciples on the third day probably went more like this, given the grammar of the passage and the textual evidence.
He appeared to them to be alive. He appeared to them to be alive on the third day, given that the divine prophets had spoken such things and many other marvels about him. He appeared to them, spending a third day restored to life. A better way to put it would be, he appeared to them to be alive on the third day. So see, Josephus is still questioning it. He's like, well, to them, they thought he was alive on the third day, but Josephus kind of has some reservations about that because he's an unconverted Jew.
He appeared to them to be alive on the third day, given that the divine prophets,
I didn't know he was going to read it. That's why I read it.
had spoken such things and many other marvels about him. In other words, Josephus was describing what the disciples believed, or what it appeared to the disciples, without necessarily endorsing their beliefs. Finally, mythicists who say Jesus never existed often claim that even if some version of this passage were authentic, this doesn't prove anything because Josephus probably got his information from second-generation Christians who may have already believed in a mythic spiritual Jesus or got it from the Gospels themselves. But Schmidt shows that when Josephus uses sources, like the Jewish letters from Aristeas, he often copies phrases word for word, which he doesn't do with any of the Gospels. And the nature of Josephus's description makes more sense coming from a Jewish source, possibly a member of the Sanhedrin itself. And here's the best part. Schmidt's book, at least of this recording, so you may have to act fast, is available as an open source work, so you can download it for free. I love it when academics do this because there's a lot of great scholarship out there, but it's often inaccessible.
What's the book called?
Love it. You have to act fast. Is available as
Josephus and Jesus, New Evidence for the One Called Christ. Josephus and Jesus, New Evidence. Called Christ. I have to. Josephus and Jesus, New Oxford Academic, PDF. Download this real quick. This book brings to light an extraordinary connection between Jesus of Nazareth and the Jewish historian Josephus. Cool. I got it. I got it. How long is it? It's only 337 pages. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to put. Wait, where did the PDF save to? Let me save this in. Okay, here we go. PDF file. Let me put it on my phone. Save this file by PDF. My phone's not connecting. Let's just save it in documents. I thought I had a folder somewhere for downloads. No. Put it in random saved stuff folder. File name, Josephus book. Save it. Okay. And now should be in this folder. Money and revolution debate, racism debate. Why is it not in here? I don't see it. I just saved it into this folder. Downloads. Untitled document. No, that's not it. Huh. It's right here. Put it into this folder. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then let's put it from here into my phone. Copy. Documents. Psychology is a pseudoscience. Josephus book. Okay. It's a Chrome PDF, but hopefully it's permanent. Anyway.
As an open source work, so you can download it for free. I love it when academics do this because there's a lot of great scholarship out there, but it's often inaccessible to lay people who don't want to pay $120 for an academic monograph. So if you want to get the book, check out the link in the description below. So those are 3 new pieces of evidence for Jesus from outside of the Bible. If there are other ancient testimonies and sources about Jesus you'd like me to talk about, please leave your recommendations in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a very blessed day.
I don't know what he's talking about, Gorilla.
What have you
I have no idea what he's talking. He's just been spurging in the chat all day. He's my... Oh, he fell down to 3rd place. Nightbot is my number 2 biggest fan. Chris Terry is my 3rd biggest fan. My 3rd top fan. Sorry, Chris. You've been demoted. You're my 3rd biggest fan now. All right, I gotta go, guys. Thank you for hanging out. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get into First Chronicles. We'll start with First Chronicles tomorrow. I'm happy to finally be out of the Book of the Kingdoms, but now we're in Chronicles and we're just gonna go through them again. So we're jumping backwards tomorrow, back to David. But it'll basically be reiterating it in different words and different ways. We'll probably have to go over the I don't think that's until First Chronicles 22 when we have to go over the David and Goliath controversy again and explain all that again, which is fine because it helps it get it stuck in my head if we keep going over it, because we've already been over it twice. Now we're going to have to go over it a 3rd time. The David and Goliath argument that the atheists will make that it's different tellings of the story. We'll have to be text critical. But anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you guys for hanging out. Let me see if there's anybody we can raid over to. I gotta get in the shower. Anchor Baby's on. Angry Conservative. Rob Noor. Send you over to Rob Noor. All right, God bless you guys. Say hi to Rob, put some chairs in his chat, and I will catch you later. We out. Peace.